Y254. Imagine.
If you just tuned in, this is Y254 News Highlights, where tonight we are talking about public health laws, and in particular we shall be focusing on food staff protection, because as young people, you're out there, you want to make money, you want to serve people coffee or maybe snacks in an office, and you don't know what may befell you in terms of legal procedures. With me in studio again, just a reminder, is Julu Okadia, is a lawyer, and he will help us to understand more of these laws in public health. You just defined what public health is. So here's a young person. They want to venture into business, making an extra coin. Say in an office, one wants to provide snacks or maybe coffee. And many other times that we've seen people in our streets wanakimbishana na kanjo, sijui unafaa ukuwe na permits, sijui unafaa ukuwe na nini. So these are some of the challenges that one may face if they want to venture into business, and more specifically that is food based. So what are legal procedures should one undertake?
Well, I think first of all it will start with the creation of a legal entity. We all understand that as individuals, that is natural person, we are a legal entity by ourselves. But for purposes of a business, you need to have another legal entity. Now, the easiest way as regards for you at this particular point will be business name, creation of a business name. At this time, my assumption would be that you have an e-citizen account. If you don't have, then you start from there. So once you register the same, either by way of a business name or partnership or company, and you get your certificate of registration, that's the starting point. Now, once you get that, then you head to the county, depending on where you're coming from, whichever county, out of the 47 counties, and you head to the county offices and you seek for business permit. Now, under that business permit, they have various categories as regards what they look for, and depending on the nature of business that you want to engage in. For purposes of food, of course, they'll give you a form that you'll need to fill in what business you're going to get into, and as you rightly pointed out, it's for provision of services relating to food and beverages.
True.
Now, once you fill in that particular form, then you lodge it in and they'll give you a fee. Part of the thing that they look at is fire. If you have a fire, you need a fire certificate to the same. So that will be attached when you're getting your business permit. Yes. Then, of course, you need to state your location. Now, once you're done with that, I think that is the preliminary in relation to starting off.
Yeah, before we get to now which office do I go to or anything else to do with filling the forms, I want to understand this young person. They really want to do this, and at times you will find they will liaise with other people who provide, like, say, I'm a chef, I cook, or I'm a pastry, I make cakes, I make other things. So here I come and I tell you I'll be buying this for you, and we get a deal. But then with me, I'll go sell it with some profit. Okay, so I have gone and a problem has befallen me. I'm not the person who cooks, but now I'm just a middle person, I sell. Do I fall into the same problem as the person who made them, or both of us are in trouble for the same?
Well, at that particular point, given that you're both dealing with public,
Right.
You're both liable. But then, of course, the degree of liability will depend on certain factors. Like, one of the factors is whether this particular information was disclosed to you or not, whether you came to the realization that these particular items that you're dealing with were actually not fit for human consumption or not. And there's one as to why you fill in these forms, you register, there's one as to why you fill in a business permit form. It's so that in the event of anything, like you pointed out, then there's someone who is responsible.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the local askaris, okay, if they come to your shop and they ask you about a certain product, and you mention that this is my source, they like to go to the source again. But then remember that we have certain entities like KEBS. Foodstuffs are normally meant to be submitted to KEBS for purposes of standardization and to make sure that the particular item are actually as per the standard. So before you actually get to sell, you need to verify with this particular individual. But again, for purposes of taking responsibility, if you have sufficient reason to believe or suspect your supplier, then you should put that question to your supplier.
Right.
And it's normally good to have a record, so that if you put anything in writing by way of mail or SMS or that kind of thing, and you ask them, what is your source, and they say that it's what do you call it, reliable source, you can trust my foodstuff and all that, and you go ahead and sell them, then you can actually rely on that information because you acted on that information.
True.
So it's upon them to provide information which is correct and reflecting the true position of the foodstuff.
Yeah, you just talked about kebs, and I'm like, this person selling coffee, we know coffee is made of this is coffee has gone under kebs. Now, how do I get to take my coffee now to kebs and verify what I'm selling is real? As in, how does it even apply?
All right, fine. I do appreciate the I do appreciate the challenge or the aspect of it. I mean, taking the people who sell for 10 shillings a cup.
Yes. Wako kwa mjengo hata yes.
I understand that, but here's the thing: before you actually, because it's the final product that you're selling, you look at the raw materials of the same.
Right.
So the sachet that you're buying before you prepare the coffee, is it standardized by KEBS or not? So to the extent that you won't take it to KEBS, but you look at the materials that you're buying. If the sachet is actually certified by KEBS, then you're good to go. It's the same thing. If I make coffee at my home, I'm actually relying on KEBS standardization of the coffee manufacturer. So it's the same thing as a vendor. You only need to verify and ascertain that the sugar that is using, the milk that is using, or the coffee beans that is using is actually KEBS standardized. Yeah.
Now, Cap 242 of the Public Health has stipulated so many laws concerning public health, and that's why tonight we are talking about foodstuff protection. Now, this person making food, now an example, kwa vibanda where we eat, most of the times you will find that this person amefungiwa sijui nini, and then you realize this person has been here for say 1 year, but it has gotten to a point ameanza kukimbishwa. What happens, what goes wrong, and in case of an outbreak of a disease, what should kind of a person do, especially if you're dealing now with food?
You say there's an element you mentioned that he's been in business for, let's say, 1 year.
Yes.
And then for all this 1 year, he has never really had a
been
visitation.
Safe.
He's been safe, and there's never really been a visitation by public health officers. Yeah. Now, the fact that public health officers did not get to you in January and they got to you in December does not necessarily mean that your source of the food stuff that you're getting was actually legit, or the food that you're making is legit, or the environment. Circumstances change. And that is the reason as to why, under that particular act that you mentioned, the person responsible for health in that county or in that city or within that particular location, the health officer, is meant to conduct certain investigation, meant to conduct certain visitation, and that's why they normally do rounds to confirm. And if you're a vendor and you so discover, as a customer, I come to you and they tell you that this particular preparation of meal was not in accordance with what we expect, you're meant to pick that up. And if I suffer, then you have a responsibility as a vendor to report it to the public health officer responsible for that location. So you have a duty as well as a vendor to report. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, as you mentioned in your question, is that if the public health officer comes to your place and so mentions that this particular foodstuff is actually not in accordance with the law, then that particular public health officer is meant to report that to the relevant officers and meant to notify you of the things that you're meant to do to regularize. So it gives you a certain notice period, let's say 1 month. So within 1 month, you're either meant to change your source of water supply, your source of milk, etc. So if you don't do that within 1 month, then you're liable to closure.
Now, as a young person, I've been into this business, I've been doing well, and then here comes the day of trouble. I may be prosecuted, let's say, I'm in court. How do I defend myself? Now, what are legal structures that are laid? How do I get to defend myself? I followed everything to the letter, but now I'm into trouble. How do I deal with this problem?
Now,
legally?
There's no blanket response to your question because it depends at the level or at the stage at which whatever offense was discovered. Okay. Let's look at one of them will be the one that I previously mentioned. The public health officer comes to visit your premises, and they mention that you need to correct 1 or 2 things. And they give you 1 month. You don't adhere to that notification, or you don't adhere to whatever they mentioned. Then that is an offense in itself. So you, at that particular point, you have no defense per se because you're notified and you've actually failed to do so.
Yes.
So what the public health officer will do, according to the act, they may try and, if it's a question of rat infestation, then they might deal with the rats. If it's a question of water supply, they might deal with sanitation and all that kind of thing. But they'll send you a bill. So at the end of the day, you're still responsible for the mistake that you committed.
Yeah.
Now, at the point of where you did not know, under the law, there's ignorance is not really a defense.
Yeah.
But you can actually look at what a reasonable vendor will do in that particular state.
Yes.
So it's expected that a reasonable vendor will ask the supplier if will verify with the supplier if that particular water that you're selling to me
Yes.
is clean, is it fit for human consumption. It's expected that a reasonable vendor will set up the premises in an area which is not prone to sewer water passing by, or a dump site, close to a dump site, that kind of thing. So that if you find yourself you're selling a foodstuff close to a dump site, then of course that is not something reasonable that someone will expect. So there are certain factors that might not really fit in each and every situation. But the key thing will be that the court will like to look at is that what will be reasonable in that particular circumstances, and what steps did you take to actually mitigate these circumstances. Did you notify the health officers or not?
Now, for the interest of money, I'm the person selling, and then I realize my business is kind of falling in terms of there are so many complaints, and I simply can't notice where the problem is coming from. Say, like, there has been an outcry, public outcry about the waters that are being sold. Utasikia mtu akisema hii maji kuna chumvi, sijui these water sijui kama ya wapi. Even to do with rice, unasikia kuna plastic rice and nini. We know the scabs. Now, you realize you've been conned. Do you just go and present yourself and say, I deal with this product and have been selling it? As in, how do I go about it? Do I stop the business? Problem will catch up with me later, or how do I get to deal with these things, knowing very well I'm the problem now?
Knowing that because
the public honesty.
Once you discovered that your supply is not according to standard, then it becomes a commercial issue, because you have a trade engagement between yourself and the supplier. So you can actually get to sue that person who supplied you, for instance, the rice, which is not proper. So it now becomes a commercial dispute. But then as regards health, what you can do is present the same, because you have a duty as a vendor to present the issues before the public health office and actually state that this is what you discovered. Because remember, each and every person under that particular act, the moment you discover that there's an issue to do with a disease which is affecting public health, according as listed in that particular act, then you have a duty to report. So you go and report. But you actually state that the reason why I came to this particular position is because my supplier, which I've mentioned, remember I mentioned that records are good.
Yes.
Which in the previous instances I've tried to raise this issue with him, and this is the evidence as regards my communication with him. Now I've realized that this issue is going to cause more harm to the public, so this is why I'm here. So you actually just have a duty to report. You cannot escape that duty. So you report the duty, but also protect yourself in relation to the steps that you took to mitigate.
Now, going back to the statement, ignorance has no defense. As a youth, I'm in trouble. What are the penalties once you go to court and you're charged, you've been found guilty? What are the penalties?
Well, according to the act, the reading of the act only stipulates a fine. There isn't much about imprisonment. So you'll be fined. So that fine is what you'll be liable to tender to court. If it's, let's say, 100,000, then you.
Wait a minute. I sell coffee and I'm fined 100,000.
So, I mean, that's just an example. I mean, it's just an example. I mean, it's ordinarily under the fines. You have a minimum. According to the act, it stipulates something like 1,500. Which doesn't really make sense.
So that's why every time they are.
Remember the act was enacted in sometime in '67.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're in 2018. So of course, the judge will look at the current circumstances and the issues that come about. So you'll be fined. And maybe for the sake of our viewer who is like, why do we have these laws? Food is food. If it's bad, it gets even bad even in our houses. Why should we have these laws?
What's the importance of these laws?
Well, the importance of these laws start from the Constitution, yeah? Where as a consumer, that is because we're looking at vendors, people who sell, the youth who are entrepreneurial in spirit and startup businesses. Yeah? So the consumer under Article 46 has a right to certain standards.
Yeah.
One of them is standard in the sense that if he or she consumes your product as a consumer, then he has a right to the highest standard in terms of health. That is one. Then the other thing is that remember that we are all subjects of the government. So the government has a duty to ensure that our health is in good shape because we are the subjects. So they have a duty to us. So that is why the law is there. So that to ensure that each and every particular citizen is taken care of in terms of the health.
Yes.
Yeah. So we wouldn't like to play about with the people's health.
All right. Now we have that person at home who's saying, I want to begin this kind of a business. Like an example I gave, selling coffee or snacks at the office, but I want a permit. Now, I want us to go back there and explain it step by step. How do I get to register? Who do I need to go to? All the legal structures or the formalities that I should follow. We have about 4 minutes. That should be enough for us to see how this one works.
Well, it's not really a tedious kind of procedure, I'd say. I think it's more that perhaps lack of awareness or lack of knowledge. Because all you need to do
which has been there for a long time.
Yeah, which has been there for a long time. All you need to do is, one, have your entity registered. Okay. Either the easiest, like I said, is a business name. In terms of cost, it costs about 850 shillings to register a business name.
Yeah.
All you need is make sure that you have a computer and you have internet connectivity.
850 for what kind of a job?
No, I mean that is just registering. Like for instance, if you want to start Hillary Dereva food stuff, all you need is have your name or have your business entity name. If you want to say Hillary Coffee, that's good. So you need to have a name. So you tender in a name search, then it gives you results whether that name has been used before or whether it's available. Then once you get the confirmation that it's available, then you register the name. The cost is 850, but name search is 150. So in total, about 1,000.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what you need. Once you get the certificate of registration, then you head to in Nairobi. Of course, you'll head to City Hall. Get to City Hall, pick up the form. You fill in the form as regard. One of the things that they'll ask you is your business name, your contact details, and where you're currently located. You say probably Y254 building, so you room number 5, that kind of thing. Then you load the document. Now they have different kind of charges apply. It might range from 10,000 to about 50,000 or 100,000. That kind.
Now, what will that be catering for?
That caters for that one. You're allowed to do business because this belongs to Nairobi.
No, that's
city.
now tax.
Okay, now that tax it's essentially tax. And remember, earlier on I mentioned that if a public health officer comes by your premises and discovers that there are certain things which are not right and ask you to do them, but you do not do them, then they can go ahead and fix them. Remember, it costs money, so that's why part of the revenue that they collect goes to this aspect.
True.
So they fix it, but then of course they'll charge you.
Yes.
The bill will be sent to your pocket. So I mean, going back to the same. So once you tender in the document, it takes less than 5 minutes. Yeah, because all you need to do is they'll give you an invoice, go to the bank, you pay the same, then you come back to a different counter and you tender in the paying slip, the banking slip, and they give you a certificate. Within 5 minutes, it's over. So within, you can actually say that within 1 week from the start of registration, name search and all that, you can have
business is up and running.
Yeah,
you see, for a moment I was like, so it's so easy and people have been running up and down Nakanjo na Kimbishana because of business permit. So this part I have to pay like 10,000 example for my business to go through. Now, how about that kind of a person who doesn't have such?
Look, that becomes very challenging. But again, remember, our government has been benevolent to this extent in relation to the youth, because we now have things like youth fund, weather fund, this kind of thing. So you can make an application.
Yeah.
If you organize yourself in a formidable group, say about 5-10 people. Then you present a proposal to these relevant bodies, and they give you the same. But the key thing is not really registration per se. The key thing will be your premises, because fine, you've
as we wind up.
Yeah, as we wind up.
Yes.
you bought things. Like for instance, Julu buys things from Hillary.
Right.
But the thing that Julu should consider is the storage aspect. So buying is not really the key thing. It's the storage, because in foods and beverage, where you store matters a lot as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Okadia, for your insights here on Y254 News Highlights. And back home, I want to believe you have learned something. So if you want to begin a business, it's so easy. Don't run up and down with Kanjum na Kimbishana because you don't have a business permit. It's good to follow these small legal procedures. They will help you someday. Thank you so much once again for keeping it Y254. My name is Dereva. Hilary. Have yourself a good night.